If you're missing this one step when building your app with AI coding tools, you might be killing your app before you even launch it. And in this video, I want to break down the biggest mistake that vibe coders make when building apps with AI, how you can fix that in under 10 minutes, and also why this is a critical step to do before you deploy your app so that you can cater for hundreds of paying customers. If you don't know me, my name is Chris, and for the last 15 years, I've been designing apps and advising startups on product and design. And with that said, let's get straight into fixing the biggest problem that vibe coders make.
Build great product. Build great product.
So before I show you exactly how to do this missed step in vibe coding, let's break down what the missed crucial step in vibe coding actually is. And it goes in between this kind of vibe coding journey here of planning your app, building your app using a tool like Lovable, Bolt, Cursor, any of these kind of vibe coding or AI coding tools, and then at the end of the process, deploying that application to a live environment that people can access just by going to a URL and then logging into your app or on their phone if it's a mobile app. And here is the step that most people, not everyone, let's change this to most people. Here's the step that most people miss, and that is testing. And this might seem kind of obvious, like to people who are in product or build apps or work with software on a day-to-day basis. But for people just getting started in this, you might think, well, what is testing? Why do I need to do testing? And how do I actually test my application before I deploy it? I built something in Bolt or Lovable or Replit and I'm happy with it. It works. Now I want to deploy it to a domain. Surely I can just do testing in those tools. And you absolutely can do a lot of testing in those platforms, and they are building some more functionality to allow you to test the security, all of that stuff within your app on those platforms. But what I would recommend always is to use a purpose-built tool specifically for testing software and applications. And I'm going to show you in this video exactly how to set up one of those tools and then just test the full code in your app before getting into maybe breaking down even more individual tests when you're building specific features and you're scaling this up to more and more customers in the kind of long-term view of your app, maybe where you have hundreds or thousands of customers using your app. And you need to do this if you want to scale, basically, because it allows you to identify any issues in your code, any security issues, any issues with any APIs or any technology that you're using before you deploy your app and actually get people using it. And this is just going to avoid any mistakes that you make. If people are actually using your application and you're taking their money and they're spending time using your application online, then you're going to want to make sure that everything is working properly before you deploy it. And so this is the answer, basically. Now, how can you test your app? So the old way in product teams, so I've worked with product teams with developers, engineers, product managers, as I've worked with them as a designer. And part of that process of designing and building features in software or websites is to basically to do a bunch of QA and test what you've built manually before actually deploying it. So we go through, we design the feature, the engineers will then build the feature in code, QA will then check the quality of that code, make sure that it passes a bunch of tests that they've already written out and that they have defined. And then if it passed those tests, we can then deploy it and actually customers can start accessing that on the front end. The wrong way now, I think, is you can ask Bolt or Lovable to test the code in your app, but those tools are not necessarily designed to do that. They're not specific agents that are trained on testing data, that are trained to do specifically, to do rigorous code reviews and testing on your app's code base. They are tools that are designed to write code and build your application. And the way that you need to think about using different AI tools is basically each of these AI tools, these AI agents that you're using, are like different employees in your software business. And so you would have a senior engineer who's writing the code and building it, and you would have someone on QA who's reviewing that code and making sure that it's all secure before you actually deploy it and customers start using it. And so the new way is to use a purpose-built testing agent, and these have been around for a little while, and there's a few different options on the market. The one I'm going to show you today is TestSprite, and this video is sponsored by TestSprite, so just to make that clear. But this is a tool that I use regularly for any applications that I build, just to review the code because it is so easy to set up and do. And so that's why I wanted to do this video with them today, to kind of show you how easy it is, how simple it is to actually do a code review on your app before you deploy it and before customers start using it, just to make sure that all the code is secure and safe. And so let's jump over to the TestSprite website because I want to show you what this is basically. So TestSprite, if you go to testsprite.com, basically is a testing agent. So you can see here that they basically just, you put a prompt into Cursor, can you test this project for me using TestSprite? And this kind of goes through your application, identifies any issues with the code, identifies any security flaws, and you can even create individual specific tests for specific features if you want to do it that way as well. And they have an MCP server, which makes it super easy to get set up in Cursor and actually test your code base. And in this video, what I want to do is basically show you a journey from a Lovable or a Bolt project into Cursor, use the TestSprite MCP to review the code, and then take the output of that review and either do those fixes back in Bolt or Lovable, or continue to do them in Cursor and then push back to your GitHub repository. If a lot of that sounds alien, don't worry, I'm going to take you through it step by step so that you know exactly what to do. And this is a great thing to do. Once you get to the point where you're happy with your app, you think you might be ready to deploy it, start getting people actually using this, then this is a perfect time to set this up. So let's sign into TestSprite. So you can click try MCP for free. You can basically try the MCP server for free to start off with before you actually pay for it. So it's also a great way to just test your application for free if you don't want to pay for something straight away. We just go to the sign in. I'm going to sign in with my GitHub account here to TestSprite. And this is a free account as well, so I'm just showing you exactly what the free account does. We click this button here, Test Locally MCP, and this is going to take us through basically setting up the MCP server in Cursor so that we can test our application. We click Quick Install, and then you click Create an API Key. That will take you to the page to generate an API key. I've already generated like a general testing API key here that I use for my apps. So let's create an API key here called testing. That's a wonderful name. And let's copy this API key to our clipboard because we're going to need this when we add the MCP server to Cursor. Let's close that. And then once we've done that, let's go back to the quick setup. So what we're going to do here is go install MCP and click add this to Cursor. If you don't have Cursor already installed, you can go to cursor.com, download Cursor, get that installed, and you can just use this on the free account again as well, so you don't have to pay for Cursor to actually do this. What we're going to do is we're going to go from a GitHub repository that we have created for an app built in Lovable or Bolt, and then set that up in Cursor. So let's go back to TestSprite and then click this Add to Cursor button. And this is going to open the Cursor settings here basically and install this MCP server. All we have to do is paste our API key for TestSprite in here and then click install. And that is going to allow us to access these 7 tools via TestSprite, basically to do tests, generate code, generate standardized PRD, test plan, code and execute, all of these kind of tools that are available with TestSprite. And this is going to allow us to basically do a code review on our code base using Cursor and using TestSprite, which is an agent tool that is specifically set up to do code reviews and testing on applications. So now that we've got this set up, what we're going to want to do is get our code base for an app that we've built in Lovable or Bolt. And so let's go over to Lovable or Bolt here. I'm going to go to an app that I've built recently in Bolt. And you can see in Bolt or Lovable, you've got this GitHub icon in the top right hand side here. At the moment, this preview of the app here isn't working because I'm not using Chrome for this, but I just want to show you the GitHub connection and then how to get the actual code base from GitHub. You can see that I've got this synced to GitHub in Bolt, and this is my active branch. And you can click go to repository here. You can do the same thing in Lovable, basically connect your project to GitHub and then go to the repository in GitHub. You need to have a GitHub account. So if you don't have a GitHub account and you're building an app in Lovable or Bolt, just create a GitHub account, go to github.com and then sync your project from Lovable or Bolt to GitHub. That will give you a repository like this, which is like a folder of all of your code files, which basically has all of the code files for your application. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take this URL here at the top for our repository, and we're going to clone that in Cursor. And the easiest way to do that, if we go over to Cursor, I'm just going to do a new window in Cursor. Let's close this one. And then from the main menu in Cursor, what we're going to do here is we're just going to click clone repository, paste the link in for our repository that we've got in GitHub. And then we're going to choose a folder that we want to clone this to. So let's clone this in this folder here. And that is going to basically take all of the files from this repository and clone all of them to our computer so that we can work on this app locally. And a quick break in the episode to talk about my community for people building apps with AI. It's called the AI App Builders Academy. Inside, you'll learn how to plan, build, launch, and grow a profitable app with AI in just 21 days. And you'll also get access to more advanced courses like how to build with Claude Code, how to build mobile apps, how to build AI agents, and more, with new lessons being released every single week. On top of that, you'll also get over $3 million worth of AI deals so that you can start building at zero cost, and also access to our weekly Q&A sessions where you can get unstuck on your app building journey. And if you sign up to our VIP annual plan, which is offered at a 60% discount, you'll also get access to monthly group coaching and workshops, as well as our community demo day, where you can pitch your app idea to me and other VIP founders to get business and strategic advice on your app. This community is full of people building real applications with AI and getting real paying customers. And this is the lowest price that it's ever going to be, because we increase the price for every 50 members that join the community. And so if you want to lock in your price and start building your app business today, then just head over to school.com/AI apps to find out more. I'll see you there. We can basically from here do a code review on this project. So all we're going to do here, now that we've got the TestSprite MCP installed in Cursor, and we've got our entire code base for our application that we built in Bolt locally in Cursor here. So you can go back to TestSprite and go through the setup. Basically, this last step here is number 3, which is start testing with TestSprite. It gives you a prompt to copy and paste. I'm just going to copy and paste this. Hey, help me to test this project with TestSprite. We'll copy that to the clipboard, go back to Cursor. I'm going to paste it into here, into this agent view on the right-hand side, and just send this off. And that is going to automatically use the TestSprite MCP to review this code base and basically find any issues that it can in our code, review our entire project so that we can be fully confident that there is no issues in our code for our app before we deploy our app and before people actually start using it. And this is a critical step in the process. And now you can deploy obviously without doing this testing step, but I just recommend this even just for peace of mind is very useful. And it's going to ask us if we want to run this kind of TestSprite MCP here. So let's just click run in Cursor. And we're going to want to do a few things here in TestSprite before this can actually run in our code base and review our code. So first, this is just a simple configuration with TestSprite here. So first, we're going to decide on what testing type we want to do. If you've built something in Bolt or Lovable, the testing that you're going to want to do primarily is going to be mainly on the front end. You can do like back end and front end tests here and provide different details for that. For now, we're going to review the front end part of our code base, which is most of the code that we've downloaded, because the back end for our app with Bolt and Lovable lives in Supabase. So that's going to be separate from the code that we downloaded. Let's test the entire code base. Code diff is basically any differences in code changes that you've made between one version to another. So we're not going to do that for now, but that is something that you can do if you want to test specific features as you're building them. We're going to provide a test account. This is something we can give to TestSprite to use when it logs into our app to kind of like test all the user flows basically, because this is going to use our local environment for our app to go through and do a bunch of different tests. So I'm actually going to change that to test5.com because that is an account that has been created, so it'll be able to log into our app. We're going to provide the local development port for our application. Now, if you don't know what that is, that's absolutely fine. What we're going to need to do is to basically get our app up and running locally before we can do this full test. So all you need to do here is basically just to open a terminal in Cursor. Don't worry, we're only going to write 2 things in the terminal, and that is going to be it. The first thing that we're going to write, because this is a web app and it's using npm for packages, which most apps built in Lovable or Bolt or any of these vibe coding tools will be, is we're going to do npm install, and that is going to install all of the dependencies, all of the packages for our application so that we can get this up and running in a local environment. Now that we've done that, we're going to do npm run dev, and that is going to run our local development server. And we're going to get a URL here that we can access to actually test this app locally. So all we need to do is copy this URL here, paste this back into the TestSprite configuration. So that was 5174. So we're going to change that to 5174. We're going to leave that product specification doc. You can add a product requirements document or a product document or any kind of outline of your app specification that you've kind of created if you've been using that for your application. If you don't have that, don't worry. What we can do now is go back to Cursor and we can actually just create a new chat here. So let's create a new chat and we'll just say create a product specification document for this application and name it's prd.md, which is basically a markdown file, which is just text. So let's get that running. We've got our two chats up here now. So this is still waiting for our information in TestSprite. And this one is going to create a product specification document for this application if we don't have one already. Some tools will automatically generate a README file for your application. For Bolt, which this project was built in, it doesn't generate a full README, but we're going to kind of create that. We're going to kind of create that now anyway, so that we can put that back into TestSprite and get our test running here. So now Cursor has created this product specification document and it's called it prd.markdown as we ask. You can see it in the files on the left hand side here. And if we click on that view, we can see the full file here and everything that it's added basically about our application. So now all we have to do is basically get this file. So I'll go right click on that and just do reveal in Finder. That is going to show me that file and then I can go back to TestSprite, add this file here to the product specification document in TestSprite, and then we'll just click continue. And then that will finish the setup for TestSprite so that we can test our application fully. Let's go back to this. This is going to now ask us some other commands that it can run inside of our application. And then TestSprite is going to go through and do a full, complete test of our app end to end so that it can understand any errors or issues that we might have in this code base. And this is all that you need to do to review your code for your application. It might look like a lot of stuff on the screen at the moment, but if I close the product specification document and we close the terminal, it's pretty straightforward. We're just using this AI chat on the right hand side here to do a full code review of our application. And this is going to throw us back any issues that we need to address. And what we can do is we can take those issues that Cursor is going to give us here using TestSprite, and we can take them back to Lovable or Bolt, and we can make those changes one at a time so that we address any issues with our code before we deploy it to a live environment. So now TestSprite has basically gone through our entire app project here and it's identified these 14 major features in the app. And what it's going to do, I think it's going to pull together tests for all of these different features. You can see here this code summary.json file that it's created in our project, which basically has an outline of all of the kind of major features within our app. It's also created a bunch of other files, this PRD file as well, which is a JSON file, like a PRD basically in a JSON format, which makes it easy for TestSprite to kind of read that and do the tests. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say keep all, and then we're just going to send to Cursor, let's execute the tests. So let's send that to Cursor, and then TestSprite is going to, basically Cursor is going to use the TestSprite MCP to go ahead and execute all of those tests using TestSprite. We just click run when we're going to run this MCP tool within our app project here. The results of these tests and whether there is anything that we need to address in our app project before we deploy it and get real paying customers here. So if you haven't got the development server up and running yet, this is also going to prompt you to get the development server up and running, or it's going to do it for you in Cursor with the Cursor agent here. And now this is going to go through and execute all of these tests in TestSprite for us. So now TestSprite has fully completed our test on this application. It's come back with 100% pass rate, which is great because this app was deployed. So that's all good. User sign up with valid email and password, sign up with invalid email, format, password reset, onboarding, dashboard, chat interface, all of these kind of things that were working in our app. It was able to go and do that on a local development server for our application, complete all of these tests. It generated a summary of this. And this is basically what you need to do to give yourself the confidence that your app that you've built is actually going to work in a live deployed environment for customers and for users coming in here. And this is going to help you identify any gaps that you have in your app that you're building as well. And so using a tool like TestSprite is something I would massively recommend. There are other options out there as well, but TestSprite is the one that I'm kind of just demoing right now. And it's one that I've used before for multiple app projects as well. So this is just a really great way to kind of go through and test your kind of full application. And you can see here it's created a test report here as well. So you'll also get all of your test reports in your app project under this TestSprite tests folder here. So it's going to keep all the documentation for all of the tests that TestSprite has completed in your app project. So you can go back and you can see everything that it's done as it's gone through all of these tests. And one other thing that I do want to show you here as well is that you can also do this with Claude Code. So if you're using Claude Code, maybe if you're a bit more advanced or you just prefer working with Claude Code, or that's where you've started, if you go to this quick install again, you can click on the Claude Code setting here for installing the MCP. Is you basically just copy this command for Claude Code, go back to cursor, run Claude Code in your project directory. So I'm just going to type Claude here to run Claude Code in this project. Say, yes, I trust this folder. And then you would basically just add this command here, put your API key in this after this bit here where it says API key equals. And then that is going to add TestSprite MCP to Claude Code inside of this app project. And you can then use the same command to run your TestSprite code review in your project using Claude Code as well. So hopefully that helps you understand why testing is such a critical part of your app building process. Even if you're not looking at the code, just using a tool like TestSprite, and there are other competitors out there as well, to review the code in your app just from one simple prompt in Cursor. Even if you're working in Bolt, Lovable, Leap, any of these other tools, just get the code out from GitHub, put it into Cursor, run TestSprite locally to test your full app and identify any issues that you might have. And once you've identified them, you can either fix them in Cursor or go back to the tool that you're building in to fix those issues, and give yourself the confidence that you're going to launch an app that doesn't have any security risks, that doesn't have any code issues, and that you've at least done a full review on the code before you launch. And if you are building an app with AI coding tools, then I've got a community to help people do just that over at school.com/AI apps, where I break down exactly how to build your app in 21 days and launch it, as well as a bunch of other stuff, including marketing, design, how to build agents, how to build mobile apps, and a ton of other things. We've got over 200 members now, and it's a great community of people building apps with AI. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Build great products. Build great products.